we have Mpho Phalatse, Dr. Mpho Phalatse standing by to talk to us about today's developments with resignations and her name being put forward. Dr. Mpho Phalatse, thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm sure you were amused looking at the tweets there. What do you think about what some of our viewers are saying?
Yeah, I was saying that everyone is entitled to their opinion. A lot has happened in the last 18 months and people are sick and tired of the instability. What's best? Is it best to return a government that was trying to rebuild and repair the city and was ousted for nefarious reasons? Is it best to let the status quo remain for the sake of stability? People will have mixed feelings about it and they're entitled to their opinion.
So, what's not, necessarily a matter of opinion is just the way the coalition and the balance of forces is stacking up. What makes you think you have a chance? Where do you think the votes are going to come from?
Well, first of all, when we campaigned in 2021, we asked the residents of Johannesburg to give us their vote because we wanted to govern so we could repair and rebuild the city. We have a principled stance as the Democratic Alliance that for as long as we've made that commitment to our residents, we need to stand by that commitment. And that's why we will not forego an opportunity to put forward a candidate to contest an election. You will recall in 2021, when I was voted in as mayor, we went into that election with 26% of the vote. We had been stuck in negotiations trying to secure coalition partners without any success. And we went ahead nonetheless. With 26%, we didn't have a single partner, not for a lack of trying, but we just simply could not succeed. And you'll recall that in spite of that 26%, I was elected mayor on that day, on the 22nd of November. Now, what happened subsequently is that, of course, we continued the negotiations until we were able to secure enough political parties to get us over the line. Unfortunately, that didn't last. Now, I say that to demonstrate that it's not to say that if you don't have the numbers, you should not put your hand up. And it's not to say that we have not tried to negotiate. Our leader, John Steenhuisen, announced about a week ago that the Democratic Alliance is inviting various political parties to talk about how we can form an alliance at a national level ahead of 2024. And these alliances, of course, will translate into various local governments as we speak between now and 2024. So those negotiations are ongoing. We've got some parties on our side. Unfortunately, we're not able to find each other with some of the parties, and it's not for a lack of trying on our part. And we will continue to reach out to like-minded parties who are interested in unseating the ANC and rebuilding our country. And one understands what you're saying, and we also understand that the horse trading behind the scenes is fierce. The ANC EFF coalition doesn't seem to have its own compromise candidate as we speak in this moment to replace Ahmad. And, I talked about the kind of fierce horse trading that's happening behind the scenes. You've alluded to wanting to make overtures to certain parties, but people are not forthcoming. So could this still be a unicorn for you? This has been a position that has been tumultuous for you. You haven't been able to see out your term. There's been a lot of infighting, within coalitions and within the council itself. So realistically speaking tonight, on a pragmatic note, what are your chances? Well, like I said, on the 22nd of November, I was elected mayor with 26% of the vote. Politics is not an exact science. We put forward a candidate and we continue to negotiate. We hope for the best. But what we will not do is stand out the election. We need to participate. We promised our voters when they gave us their vote, they gave it to us so we could govern. And we owe it to them to be in the game. And we will be in the game.
Could there be a U-turn on partnering with the Patriotic Alliance, since it seems, at least from the residents' vantage point, there are no permanent friends or enemies in the coalition arena?
Well, the Democratic Alliance has actually not ruled out the possibility of a relationship with the Patriotic Alliance. The DA, however, has pointed out some concerns. And the biggest of those concerns is the flip-flopping. The DA has asked for a firmer commitment on the part of the Patriotic Alliance as an investment in the stability of governments where we work with the PA. So that tells you that should the DA and the PA see eye to eye, there is still a chance that the two parties can work together. A week is a long time in politics, so we also don't know what will happen between now and the 2nd of May when we'll eventually have the election of mayor.
Dr. Phalatse, in the reasons that we hear about why you should come back is this, that you have a proven track record. Some of the residents in the city might agree with that and others don't. What do you believe your impact in the city was? What change did you bring?
Well, I get phone calls and messages from officials all the time. I meet with residents. I'm a resident of Johannesburg myself, and they speak to me about just the hope that they had. We were in office for 13 months. We brought a sense of hope. We were a competent government. We laid out a plan after demonstrating an understanding of exactly what is wrong with the city. And we partnered where we needed to partner to put in place practical solutions for some of the biggest challenges that Joburg residents and business people, tourists, and everybody in the city face. The biggest impact I believe we made was just the headway we made on offsetting load shedding. Yes, by the time we exited at the end of January, we had not seen it practically implemented. However, there had been a lot of steps forward that were taken by the city, and we believe that our request for proposals, which was meant to close in February, was extended to the 31st of March. You would have seen a press briefing by our former MMC for City Power, MMC Michael Sun, asking for feedback from the current administration or the now previous administration, asking give us an update of how that process is going. On the day we were ousted in the morning, we actually announced a 401 million rand plan to offset 3 stages of load shedding. Now, for a city like Johannesburg, the economic hub of the country, to be without power is a nightmare. It's going to impact on so many things, including our national fiscus, because of our huge contribution towards the GDP in this country.
Yes, and I'm so sorry to kind of nudge you a little bit. So that was a plan, and you said you made a lot of headway. It wasn't able to be implemented because of the reasons you've just stated to us. So that was not an effect that the city had felt. Talk to us then about what might have been low-hanging fruit in terms of refuse collection, in terms of grass cutting, in terms of fixing the potholes that are all over the city. What progress do you feel that you made on that in terms of the lived experience of the residents of the city?
Let me respond on the issues that you raised. If you talk about refuse removal, for instance, we invested in mechanical sweeping. For instance, we increased the number of shifts. In the inner city, we had an integrated approach to keeping the inner city clean, which involved various departments, including the JMPD, but also the Department of Economic Development with a focus on informal trade. If you take a walk in the inner city, you'll note that there's a strong association between the grime that you see in the inner city and informal trade. Now, one of the things we did as an investment towards that was to approve the informal trade policy for the first time. And this is a policy that we had put together in the 2016 administration, but was never followed through by the ANC administration. We came in and we made sure that it goes through council, and we were in the process of cleaning up, because once informal traders are put in a demarcated space and there's adequate law enforcement, you'll begin to see tangible change. So there was a lot of improvement, and all residents of Johannesburg could see that. If you talk about safety, for instance, we put 1,500 police officers back on the streets of Johannesburg, mainly in the inner city, which started to feel safer. We saw more arrests in targeted crimes, and we saw a huge improvement in safety and just our residents feeling safe again. A lot of our infrastructure challenges are long-standing problems that require billions of rands that the city does not have. What we started doing there is started opening up those spaces to the private sector, now integrated our independent power producers program is one such example, where for the first time the city said, we're not going to do this alone, we're not going to rely on Eskom only, we're going to open up to the private sector so they can help us stabilize energy in the city of Johannesburg. We were doing the same in water, we were doing the same in sanitation. So in other words, in spite of our fiscal constraints, we were reaching beyond ourselves, and we were beginning to open spaces to the private, and everybody wins.
Just as a final question, do you feel that you'd always have, a target on your back politically? Let's say, this goes forward, and even if you do get the support and you manage to wear the chain again, would you feel like that? You had a permanent target on your back?
Such is the nature of politics. There'd be something wrong if people gave up trying. So I expect them to continue trying to oust whoever's in that seat. What we need is stable governments, and we're going to put a number of things in place to ensure that happens. You'll note that the DA at a national level has already proposed 2 bills as an investment towards stable coalition governments. Hopefully, with the support of other political parties at a national level, we will be able to implement those bills. That's just an investment in stability. We need to invest in voter education so voters can understand the importance of their vote, that staying away actually has a negative impact on stability of governments. Therefore, between now and 2024, that's something we need to invest in so that we can see a much improved voter turnout, but also a voter that understands how they should approach the election in order to invest in the stability of our nation.
Well, let's see what happens next week. Dr. Mpho Phalatse, thank you for talking to us.